going to show you how to paint some of the shapes. I always work at more than one at a time, so I'm going to do the first two. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your small brush for fine details and your bigger brush to paint the whole thing. You're also going to need a pencil that'll help you with some lines. And I am only working, I'm going to mix some paints, so I'm going to show you how to mix some paints. I have white, yellow, red, and blue. So the first thing that I am actually going to do, and have a paper towel and water and a mixing plate that'll help you. I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to draw my lines to my cupcake. You see it over there? This one should be down a little further. So we're going to like paint these in a circuit. So we'll put one coat and then we'll probably have to go back and put a second coat. So I'm going to do my cupcake first. So I'm thinking, since I have a white background, I don't want to make any of my shapes white. So I'm thinking like a pink and then a blue on the bottom. So I'm going to do my pink first. So to make a little pink, I'm going to take some white. Make sure you take enough paint and then a tiny bit of red and mix that around on your plate. So, and then you're just going to paint the top of that cupcake. Make sure when you paint, you don't have like globs of paint like I just put on. So we're going to put like one coat on, let it dry, and then go back with a second coat. That's why we're working two at a time. Let that dry. While I'm letting that dry, I'll do the bottom. The bottom's just going to paint blue. Straight blue. Birds are going crazy outside. If you want, you can mix a little white into that blue. These are acrylic paints, so like white helps them cover a little better. I'm not getting too crazy about my line because I know I'm going to have to do another coat. So once I have that first coat, I'm going to put it aside and get my pumpkin. Then I have to make some orange. So to make orange, I'm going to add a little yellow, tiny bit of red, and I'm going to add some white as well. And you're just going to have to keep on adding as much red until you get like a nice orange. So I have orange, and I'm also going to take my little brush and I'm going to make a little green too, because I'm going to make it a green stem. You could also make it a brown stem. I like my pumpkin to be alive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my stem. And then you can wash your brush, and then I'm going to start painting my pumpkin. I'm going to not go near the stem right away because I want to let that dry a little bit before I put some orange, because the orange and the green together will make I'm actually going to make that green line a little nicer because you're going to see it. So one coat, let it dry, and I'm gonna go back to my cupcake's already dry. I'm gonna go back to my cupcake. Make sure you wash and dry that brush real good. I'm gonna put my second coat of pink on my cupcake. I'm finished with that second coat of pink, I'm going to do my second coat of blue. And this is when I'm going to pay attention and try and be really neat where that line is. Really neat where that line is. That looks pretty good. I put 2 coats on. Looks pretty good. We're gonna let that dry, and then at the end we'll add some sprinkles. Let's get back to this pumpkin now. So I'm gonna wash my brush out again. Add a little more orange. And while this orange is still wet, we're going to add some lines of red to give it a little definition. So I'm going to use my small brush, and I still have my big brush with orange on it. So with my small brush, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3 lines of red. And what you could do is then you're going to take that orange and you're just going to kind of go over them a little bit so you faintly see those lines. I'm going to put some lines on the side. If you don't see them at all, put them again. I'll put lines on the side too. Go over them with a little bit of orange. It just adds that definition to the pumpkin. So you see it adds like a little something. So already I'm going to wash my little brush out, and I'm going to take a little more green and perfect that stem. Give that stem another coat. So that is looking good. So I have those 2 drying aside right now. So next thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to get my little wreath. So I'm going to find a clean place to paint with this. So I have my little wreath. Since I already have some green, that's why I picked that one next. So what I am going to do is I am going to leave that inside of that wreath with nothing. But if you have a white background, you could paint it white. And that's what I would do first. And then we're going to paint the wreath, and then finally paint the bow. So the wreath is, you're going to paint it one color green initially. So I'm going to take my green that I have like pretty much made, and I'm going to paint the wreath. If you get outside your lines, it's okay. All right, so while the green is still drying, we're going to add some of our details. So I'm going to actually take my little brush and some white, and then inside my wreath, I'm just going to add like little C's or little curves of white. And it's just going to make a lighter green. We're just giving our wreath some texture. It's going to make a lighter green. We're going to go back with another shade of green too. So So over my whole wreath, I'm going to do that. Once I use that white, I'm going to make a little darker shade of green. And in this green, I'm actually going to add a teeny bit of like orange or red. And I'm going to go make another round of like those C's, those curves. We're just layering colors on top of each other so we get like a texture like the wreath has. That looking good. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my time and I'm going to color in that bow. And I'm going to color it all red. You could do whatever color you want, but I'm going to color it all red right now. While that red is still wet, I'm gonna go in and just like add a little white on the left side of the bow. I'm gonna add a little white highlight on the top of the bow. Just the white is gonna give it a little pop. It's a little light reflection. I'm gonna add it on the left side of each of the tails of the bow. And how the bow is separated into two parts underneath, I'm going to just add a teeny bit of white too. And that white just differentiates everything. So my wreath is actually finished, so I'm going to put that aside. That's looking good. And I'm going to go back to my cupcake. So for the next step of my cupcake, I just ruined my brush. Oh no. For the next step of my cupcake, I am going to make some sprinkles. To make some sprinkles, you're just going to take random colors. And I just like to make little lines to make sprinkles. If lines are too much for you, you would always use the back of your paintbrush and you could put little dots as well. And you dip and dot, dip and dot. Dip and dot. Alright, so I have my cupcake set aside, and then I'm just gonna look at my my pumpkin, and I just want to go back and try and get rid of that green that I have up there. Yeah. Okay. So now I have my pumpkin finished. I have my cupcake done, and I have my wreath finished. And all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wait for these to dry, I'm gonna take a little break, and then I'll come back with the next two shapes. All right, I'm gonna start the final two shapes now. I'm gonna start with the watermelon. So for the watermelon, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add some, I'm gonna paint it all white. Paint it all white. Alright, so once you paint that white, what you could do with this little smaller brush is you could take some red. I have my paints off to the side now, and I'm just gonna make like the watermelon part. So I'm just making it like a wide U. And I'm gonna start filling that watermelon in. So the red that I used is mixing with the white, so it creates like a pink. But if you want it to be a little darker, just wait till you put your second coat on and you'll make it darker then. I'm gonna let that dry before I do any details on that. I still have to do the green on that. So now we're gonna move on to my star. So for my star, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint it all blue. And I have a white background, so you could paint it white if you don't have a white background. Paint it red would look good. I'm gonna paint it all blue, and then I'm gonna put red and white dots on it. So I'm gonna let both of these dry, and then I'll come back and do a second coat. I put a second coat on and started to let things dry. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, I have some green left over from before, my dirty plate. So I'm gonna add some green just around the edge of my watermelon. I added that rind. Next, what I'm going to do is, while I'm still working on my watermelon, I'm going to use the back of my paintbrush and add seeds. So all I'm going to do is just take a little bit of paint on the back. I'm just going to make like a little dash. I'm like going to dip and dot. Just a couple of seeds all around. I have my seeds. Don't drop your paintbrush, put that on. Right, I have my seeds, looking good. He is all finished. And next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the back of another paintbrush, and I am gonna add white dots around my star. So this might take a while. Alright, so once I'm done with my white dots, I'm going to go back and just add like some red dots in random places. And put them inside too. Can't really see them, but they're there. So we just completed our 5 shapes. You want to let these dry, and then once these are all dry, you should start laying out your letters, your painted letters on your board, and then you can start gluing and Velcroing stuff. The written instructions have all the details. So if you need any more help, just you could email us, saying call or email, but you can email us or message us on social media. All right, hope you have a good day.